Continuing on to the second day one of the Win $1,100 $1,000,000 guaranteed tournament was, you know, kind of crazy. I wasn't in the best of moods after busting the way I did the previous day, losing to the River 2 outer, but I decided I kind of had to suck it up. This was going to be my prep for WSOP. In this entry, I had an up and down sort of stack, but ended up chipping up to 41k, then played this hand at 200, 400, 400. I opened Ace Queen of Hearts in early position to 1k. Middle position and the button both called, so we went three-way to a flop of 10 deuce deuce rainbow. I c-bet for 800, down betting, and middle position makes the call. Turn is a jack of clubs, and while I probably don't need to barrel this card all that often, I do decide to go for it here and bet 3.5k. Middle position calls once again, and on the river 6 of clubs, I just get stubborn here. This is not a good run out for me to barrel, at least not without the ace of clubs or king of clubs in my hand, I would say. And while I'm blocking some of the hands that they could call with, I'm not really blocking the strong ones, and that's a little bit problematic. I'm blocking more of the weak ones. But I do decide to barrel 8k, and I get absolutely snap called by Queen 10 offsuit. So maybe agonizing over getting the strong versus weak hands to fold wasn't really where my head needed to be at here. This really goes to show how in live poker especially, you're often just not really getting credit, and people just don't really like to fold once they've called a couple of streets. Unfortunately here, after chipping up, I'm back down slightly below starting stack, 27k, and open ace-10 offsuit in early position in the same orbit to 1k. This time, middle position, the hijack, the button, and the big blind calls. We go 5 ways to a flop of ace, ace, deuce. I'm a little bit happier with this board, so I c-bet 1.2k. The hijack calls, and the button now makes it 3.6k. These spots are always pretty weird because if you notice, there are only 4 aces in a deck, and I have one of them. 2 of them are on the board, which means only one of these 2 players can have the 4th ace. It's a weird spot because I have to decide whether the button would really flat with a better ace too often, whether the hijack can even ever have an ace, if somebody else in the hand, basically I have to figure out if anybody's not full of crap here. I also think that in general on this two-tone board, I kind of have to decide pretty close between 3-betting the flop or just calling, but here I decided to just call, keep my range a little bit wider, or at least wider perceived, I hope. Now, hijack surprises me and actually jams for 21k. The button folds, so now I'm looking at a spot where the hijack effectively always has an ace here, but they shouldn't have a better ace super often. Most people should end up 3-betting ace-king and ace-queen here. Ace-jack is certainly a hand that beats us, but on specifically ace-ace-deuce, where ace-deuce and deuces are the only boats, and they can have every ace from ace-3 through ace-9, I just thought that my hand was a little too strong, and ultimately that people might overplay enough worse hands. However, I do think that they're weighted a little bit away from like the ace-3s or ace-7s of the world, so this is a closer spot than maybe it appears on the surface. I don't think this is a slam dunk either direction, but I did decide to call, and I ended up having ace-queen suited. So in terrible shape here, need to hit a 10, a deuce, or have the board double pair by the river. Given that none of those things happened, I actually ended up losing just a massive percentage of my stack here. In the next hand that I play, we're playing 300, 500, 500, but I only have 4.9k in the stack. It's actually pretty soon after though, so I haven't played any significant hands since. The cutoff limps in for 500, and I'm on the button with king, jack of spades. I have an absolute no-brainer jam here. When the cutoff limps in, they just don't have a lot of strong hands. However, the small blind just snaps without even asking for a count. I'm expecting to be totally screwed here when this happens, but somehow she has just ace-4 of hearts. The board rolls out queen 10-4 with 2 hearts, 6 of diamonds on the turn, doesn't really change anything. And the river, despite all our outs, is the 5 of hearts. I'm out. Decide to put another bullet in here, 300, 500, 500 blinds, 25k in the stack, which is either starting stack or pretty close. I'm looking down at ace-5 of diamonds under the gun, and I bump it up to 1200. A guy who just stacked off with pocket 9s versus pocket aces in a totally terrible spot for him rips it for 6k. Folds around to me, and I call, and somehow now he has ace-king suited. I'm not really sure what the board is. Maybe there was a queen. Maybe there was a 9 on it. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. We lose. 15.3K in the stack now. 400, 800, 800 blinds. Middle position, who's been very active, makes it 2K. I'm in the hijack with ace-10 offsuit, and I make the call. Big blind calls as well, so we go 3 ways to a flop, which is 10 high, 10-7-3. Middle position c-bets for 3.4K, and I only have 13.3K in the stack. Doesn't really seem like there's a lot of turn cards I want to see, and we can certainly cooler a worse 10 here. I'm still always pretty much getting stacked by overpairs, so I see no point in waiting around. I just jam it in there. Folds around, so we pick up a much needed pot. 18K in the stack now at the same blind level, under the gun with pocket 7s, and I open it up to 1.7K. Small blind and the big blind both call, and the flop comes 10, 9, 8 rainbow. Checks to me, and this is a board where I'll do a lot of checking with my whole range. This hand is a great candidate to do that as well. That's what I do. The turn is the 8 of clubs, pairing the board and completing the rainbow. Small blind leads for 3.7K, and I make the call. The river is the 3 of diamonds. He checks, and I very happily check this back here. We just don't really ever get to bet and get called by worse, I don't think. So I check it back, and I beat King Jack offsuit that thankfully did not bet the river. We would have been in a pretty tough spot if he did. 22K in the stack now, just clawing my way very slowly here back. Middle position opens to 2K, and I'm in the big blind with King 8 offsuit. I make the call. Flop comes 10-7-3, diamond, spade, spade. Not really anything going on for me. I check, and middle position bets 2K. I get a little bit stubborn here and decide to check raise just because I block a lot of one pair hands that are pretty good. I have backdoor straight draws, but ultimately I don't love this combo choice. This should just be a check fold. He also makes the call, and the turn is the king of diamonds, so we do get bailed out here with our overcard. I think that with the stack sizes in play now, there's really only one option. He can have overpairs jacks through queens. He can have ace 10, queen 10, jack 10 that will really always call off here. Even a hand like pocket 9s might be inclined to call against a jam. So that's what I do, and he just folds. So we might have even had the best hand against some kind of like gut shot or something. Maybe a flush draw that he just folds and gets away from, but it's nice to take one down. However, we lose several other small hands and just pay the blinds a few more times. The blinds go up to 501K, 1K, and we're sitting on 17.7K now. The button opens to 3K, and I'm in the small blind with pocket kings. Pretty easy spot here to just jam it in. I think that it's tempting to try to go small and sort of trick him or just flat, but this hand is somewhat vulnerable. So I rip it in, especially over his 3 big blind size, and he just calls with ace 9 off. Pretty standard hand in my opinion. Board rolls out jack, 7, 4, 7, deuce. Now later on against the exact same guy, and I have pretty much the exact same stack, I 3-bet rip against him with ace 10 offsuit, and he tanks and gives a speech before calling with pocket jacks. So, you know, apparently when I have pocket kings one time, it means that I've basically always got him beat. I don't know. The board stays clean for him, and I am once again out.
Another day. Another 2 bullets down the drain. And this time, I feel like I played a little better in some spots, but a little worse in others. I mean, the final hand is like almost definitely a punt, but it's just like I got so bored today. This almost never happens to me live. I almost never get so bored that I'm like, oh, it's hard to, you know, play right. It's just one of those moments where I felt like the guy, he's the guy who I had the kings against. Sorry for the air, but it's freaking hot. I really thought that he would release because he just didn't want to stick it in again. And I guess I was kind of right because he has a snap call with ace queen, and he just didn't want it. But the problem is jamming ace 10 is like, I'm always getting called by better, never getting called by worse. And it probably could just be a call or fold, leaning fold. But yeah, besides that last hand, I think like everything else I did was at least reasonably defensible, if pretty far out of construction. And, you know, it's just gonna go like this sometimes. It's hard to go 4 bullets in a row in 2 days and just like never get above 3x starting. I think the highest I got was like 2.5-ish. 67K was like my peak stack of the entire 2 days, and you start with 25, so it's like really not a lot, especially considering I made it pretty far yesterday on the second bullet. I think I'll be back tomorrow. I think I will, but I think I'm only gonna bring 2 bullets. Like the last 2 days I had enough for no matter what happened, I was willing to keep rebuying. Today I was just like, I don't know, tomorrow I really don't want to get into this thing for 10K, so I might just bring 2 bullets. If you enjoy this video, please leave it a thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. If this is your second or third video seeing this mug and you're not subscribed, you should probably subscribe. Smash it if you're into that, and always remember, just triple.